Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We're in St. James's Park. And it's really hot. Like, horribly hot.
It's lovely.
And we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 26, text I have 17. Oh, you've got nothing.
I have everything because we have the Bhagavatam. Yes, 17 is correct.
Alright, Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
You have to do the harmonies on the last one, innit?
Any musicians out there, please forgive her. Okay.
Alright, text 17. My dear mother, O daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, the time factor, as I have explained, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom the creation begins as a result of the agitation of the neutral, unmanifested nature. Purport. The unmanifested state of material nature, pradhan, is being explained. The Lord says that when the unmanifested material nature is agitated by the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it begins to manifest itself in different ways. Before this agitation, it remains in the neutral state without interaction by the three modes of material nature. In other words, material nature cannot produce any variety of manifestations without the contact of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is very nicely explained in Bhagavad Gita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of the products of material nature. Without his contact, material nature cannot produce anything.
Any thoughts?
I've got lots of thoughts.
Anything about what we're reading?
It says here, without the contact of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, material nature cannot produce anything. And here we are in St. James's Park, and it's very beautiful, as are most parks, royal parks or otherwise. Green grass, trees, the flower beds so nicely looked after. But none of this came about just because the gardener that works here did it. I think there's more than one gardener. And it certainly wasn't because of Her Majesty the Queen, although no negativity towards Her Majesty. But I'm just saying, even though it's a royal park. But as it says here, it all came about by the contact, touch of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise you can plant all the seeds you want, and you can try to mow the grass if there's any grass to mow, and the trees don't have to. I mean, when we were walking through winter, these trees were completely bare. And look at them now. So again, not to get too fanatical, but even if we don't accept Krishna, we don't accept his little God, his little blue boy or whatever, there's something going on. There's some intelligence, there's some design going on. That much we can tentatively accept wherever we're at.
Very nice example. Wonderful. I have nothing to comment on that.
Oh.
In Chaitanya Charitamrita also a very suitable example is given in this connection. Although the nipples on a goat's neck appear to be breast nipples, they do not give milk.
Your granddad said.
Yeah, I like that. Similarly, material nature appears to the material scientist to act and react in a wonderful manner, but in reality it cannot act without the agitator, time, who is the representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When time agitates the neutral state of material nature begins to produce varieties of manifestations. Ultimately, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of creation. As a woman cannot produce children unless impregnated by a man, material nature cannot produce or manifest anything unless it is impregnated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of the time factor.
Someone talking very loud.
Hey, Bhagawan. So, this is very powerful point. Also, the time factor is what impregnates material nature and gives birth to the manifestation. And just listening to the audio book of Chaitanya Charitamrita at the moment, and in CC, 4th or 5th chapter, there's a lot of this analogy given. And if you've ever seen a goat, you know that on the neck of the goat there's these things that flap there that, you know, Prabhupada compares to the nipples. And basically it's like the nipples on a goat's neck. Now, you might think that they're going to give you milk, but they're not going to give you anything. So in the same way, material nature appears to the material scientist to act and react in a wonderful manner, but in reality it cannot act without the agitator. So material nature isn't the cause. The actual real cause is coming from Krishna, from the origin, as you were saying so nicely.
Okay. Text 18. By exhibiting his potencies, the Supreme Personality of Godhead adjusts all these different elements, keeping himself within as a supersoul and without as time. Here it is stated that within the heart, the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides as a supersoul. This situation is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. The supersoul rests beside the individual soul and acts as a witness. This is also confirmed elsewhere in the Vedic literature. Two birds are sitting on the same tree of the body. One is witnessing, and the other is eating the fruits of the tree. This Purusha, or Paramatma, who resides within the body of the individual soul, is described in Bhagavad Gita 13.23 as the Upadrashta, witness, and the Anumanta, sanctioning authority. The conditioned soul engages in the happiness and distress of the particular body given him by the arrangement of the external energy of the Supreme Lord. But the Supreme Living Being, or the Paramatma, is different from the conditioned soul. He is described in Bhagavad Gita as Maheshwara, or the Supreme Lord. He is Paramatma, not Jivatma. Paramatma means the supersoul, who is sitting by the side of the conditioned soul just to sanction his activities. The conditioned soul comes to this material world in order to lord it over material nature. Since one cannot do anything without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, he lives with the Jiva soul as witness and sanction giver. He is also Bhakta. He gives maintenance and sustenance to the conditioned soul.
Thoughts?
Yeah, just what a, I guess, loyal and kind friend Krishna is. That not only does he come with us here, normally if someone like turns away from you, rejects you, or falls, you know, some distance is there, you don't necessarily, well, you definitely, well, I say definitely, but most people wouldn't maintain them or act in a way that's for that other person's benefit. You might just let it go and think, oh, so-and-so or whatever. You might think of them, like I'll be honest, recently I was thinking of some friends that I had at university, and that sound like very old. I don't think I had a mobile phone then. So like, I don't have any connection with them. Can't find them on social media, whatever. So yeah, you sort of think of them and think, oh, but that's it. I'm not going to do a worldwide hunt for them and DNA swabs and all that, but, you know, ancestry.com, but whatever. But Krishna does. He stays with us, even though we take this information from Srila Prabhupada, because I don't know, but I'm taking it on good authority, that we turned against God, we turned against Krishna to come here because I wanted to be like my mate Krishna, but I couldn't be over there because he's the king of the castle. So my mate created this world so I could do the same thing as him here. How many people do that? When someone's envious of you or jealous, then we either defend or we get nasty or we ignore them, but not like, oh, you're envious of me, so I'll give you what I got as well. And he does. And not only does he do that, but then he comes down here just to keep an eye on us and just to remind us of what we're due and what not. So that's quite a good friend right there.
Amazing. I have nothing to add or subtract.
What?
Wonderful.
Is that too much sun?
I guess so.
So have I. You can see I'm tan, can't you? It's not the lighting.
Okay. Since the living entity is constitutionally part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord is very affectionate to the living entities. Unfortunately, when the living entity is bewildered or illusioned by the external energy, he becomes forgetful of his eternal relationship with the Lord. But as soon as he becomes aware of his constitutional position, he is liberated. The minute independence of the conditioned soul is exhibited by his marginal position. If he likes, he can forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead and come into the material existence with a false ego to lord it over material nature. But if he likes, he can turn his face to the service of the Lord. The individual living entity is given that independence. His conditional life is ended and his life becomes successful as soon as he turns his face to the Lord. But by misusing his independence, he enters into the material existence. Yet the Lord is so kind that as Supersoul he always remains with the conditioned soul. The concern of the Lord is neither to enjoy nor to suffer from the material body. He remains with the jiva simply as sanction giver and witness so that the living entity can receive the results of his activities, good or bad. Yeah, I mean, it's basically what she said already.
Have you got nothing to say?
Nay.
That's going to be very one-sided, isn't it?
It's alright. It's usually one-sided the other way.
I see.
I
think we
according
understand.
to what you remind me of. Yeah.
Alright, final little paragraph. Outside the body of the conditioned soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead remains as the time factor. According to the Sankhya system of philosophy, there are 25 elements. The 24 elements already described, plus the time factor, make 25. According to some learned philosophers, the Supersoul is included to make a total of 26 elements. Next verse.
Right?
Have you got nothing to say?
Nothing, mate. Nothing.
It won't last, don't worry.
So this is text 19, I think. Yeah, 19. After the Supreme Personality of Godhead impregnates material nature with his internal potency, material nature delivers the sum total of the cosmic intelligence, which is known as Hiranmaya. This takes place in material nature when she is agitated by the destinations of the conditioned souls. This takes place in material nature when she is agitated by the destinations of the conditioned souls. Agitated by the destinations. Interesting, okay.
What do you understand by that?
I don't know that I understand anything. So I'm hoping that purport will reveal something. What do you understand by it?
Nothing.
Okay. The impregnation of material nature is described in Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter, verse 3. Material nature's primal factor is the Mahatattva, or breeding source of all varieties. This part of material nature, which is called Pradhan as well as Brahman, is impregnated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and delivers varieties of living entities. Material nature in this connection is called Brahman because it is a perverted reflection of the spiritual nature.
It is described in the Vishnu Purana that the living entities belong to the spiritual nature. The potency of the Supreme Lord is spiritual, and the living entities, although they are called marginal potency, are also spiritual. If the living entities were not spiritual, this description of impregnation by the Supreme Lord would not be applicable. The Supreme Lord does not put his semen into that which is not spiritual, but it is stated here that the Supreme Person puts his semen into material nature. This means that the living entities are spiritual by nature. After impregnation, material nature delivers all kinds of living entities, beginning from the greatest living creature, Lord Brahma, down to the insignificant ant in all varieties of form. In Bhagavad Gita 14.4.4, material nature is clearly mentioned as Sarva Yonishu. This means that of all varieties of species, demigods, human beings, animals, birds and beasts, whatever is manifested, material nature is the mother, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a seed-giving father. But the mother gives its body, although the seed of life is given by the father. The body develops within the womb of the mother. Similarly, the spiritual living entities are impregnated into the womb of material nature. But the body, being supplied by material nature, takes on many different species and forms of life. The theory that the symptoms of life are manifest by the interaction of the 24 material elements is not supported here. The living force comes directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is completely spiritual. Therefore, no material scientific advancement can produce life. The living force comes from the spiritual world and has nothing to do with the interaction of the material elements. Ooh. My flies always to go up your nose or in your ears. What's that?
So, any thoughts?
No.
So, what I kind of took away is that this takes place in material nature when she is agitated by the destinations of the conditioned souls. So, by the glance of the Lord over material nature, Pradhan or Brahman, she becomes impregnated, and then the impregnation means that the destinations of all those different living entities that have been impregnated within her seems to be an agitating factor. Means that it's one in the beginning, it's material nature, but then it's one, it's a variety, it's all the components but merged into one homogeneous entity. But then we read earlier that when it's agitated by the three modes of material nature, then it becomes the material energy, it becomes like Prakriti. So that must be once the impregnation happens, because actually I was just hearing this morning that the Lord comes in contact with the material energy before it's influenced by the modes of material nature, because once the material energy is influenced by the modes of material nature, the Lord isn't in contact, he sits above it, because he's not influenced by the modes of material nature. So it's an interesting point. So it seems like what I'm understanding from this, and I could be wrong, and if I am, you can please correct me in the comments or add your comments, that first the Pradhan, which is like Brahman, is, like I said, then once he impregnates and puts the seed in there, then because each of those seeds has a specific destination to become one of many varieties, like we're surrounded by trees with birds, there's insects, there's flowers, there's grass, there's people, there's animals, birds, and so many things. So many varieties or destinations of the living entities. And because of that, the material nature, which is Pradhan, becomes then agitated. And I think at that point, I may have the terminology incorrect, but at that point it becomes like Mahatattva and begins to become manifest as individual parts. The different elements begin to manifest. Does that make sense or not? Yeah? Okay. That's all.
Thank you.
So I think we'll finish there.
Yes. On this rather hot day.
But it's not bad in the shade.
It's very humid.
It's not humid.
It's really cold. I'm going to go and put my winter jacket on in a minute.
No, she's not.
Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Krishna is the Supreme
Oh, you
Personality.
agree on something.
At least we agree on that. Okay, thank you all very much for tuning in. Gruntaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Actually, I want to quickly, say Hare Krishna to Mataji. Very enthusiastically stopped us when we were leaving in the morning. I think it was Tuesday at ISKCON London during Guru Puja. Duty greeting time, but due to my bad manners, I never asked you your name, Mataji. But you say it pings up on your phone when it goes live on Facebook, so you know and you watch it. So hope you know who you are. You stopped us on the stairs at ISKCON London and said you like watching. So Hare Krishna, and thank you for watching and your support.
Remember, like, comment, subscribe, but also share.
And
share with
most
others.
importantly, read.
Yeah, most important. Hare Krishna,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna.
Haribol.